World War III has already started, not that Trump or Harris have noticed, or so an article from the Wall Street Journal tells us. Guys, those of you who've been following this channel, you guys will know I've said this thing is happening, it's here, we're edging closer towards it. I think it's already started, and now more mainstream media articles are saying, looking around and looking at the situation of the world and thinking, well, hang on a minute. Like, everybody's doing a war. Is this a world war? Guys, good morning. Thank you for joining me again. Don't forget to click the buttons down below. Follow us on all our platforms now if you can. Really, greatly appreciate your support. So let's just get into this then, guys. From an article from, I think it's the Wall Street Journal. I'll share this with you now. World War III is already underway. Sorry, not that Harris or Trump has noticed. Now, the article's making comparisons between the 1940s election in the United States. So, a new axis is showing global disorder. The U.S. presidential campaign is what reckless and disregard looks like. In October 1940, as Americans prepared to select a president, World War II was raging. What I'll say about that, guys, right then in 1940, nobody was talking about it being World War. Nobody was saying, hey, guys, we're at the start of World War II. It was just a time of lots of people fighting each other's and joining sides, and and the Germans were making progress. And guys, it was wild times. But when we look back at right now, we're going to look back and we're going to say, yeah, remember the Russians were taking loads of ground. There was, conflict in the Middle East. The North Koreans were attacking the South Koreans. And, people are going to say, yeah, that was kind of the start of it. I don't know if there's going to be a black swan moment that pushes us into this, that everybody just thinks, right, okay, we're going to have to do this. I think it was the 1st of October when the Middle East conflicts, the Israeli-Lebanon conflict went into a new phase. But anyway, that's what these guys are talking about here. They're talking about, World War III is already underway. Guys, it's hard to disagree with that statement. Who are we going to have? Are we going to have Trump or Harris? Who knows? I guess if you listen to some of the polls, certainly some of the polls that were released months ago, they would have put this at 50-50. Now, the thing about polling, when you go out onto when you're on the street with a noteboard or a clipboard or something at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're asking people who they're voting for, you get a certain type of people. You get people who are not at work because they're out shopping. Those people who are not at work usually have a certain political objective, and those type of people who go and do those interviews, they have a certain slant anyway. Just psychologically, there are certain type of people. I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with that. I'm just saying they're a certain demographic. Now, the better polls to find are where people are putting their money. So who people are betting on, because those people who bet with money, they're normally better educated, not better educated, sorry, that's the wrong word to use. They're more savvy with understanding what's happening in their country. And you're not going to bet your money on somebody who is going to lose. So if you look at the betting polls and who the bookies are making to be the next US president, that's kind of always a better gauge than, asking a couple of students in the street who they're going to vote for. Because obviously, they're going to vote for a certain demographic. Anyway, so it's come out now. There's lots of articles in the mainstream about the situation in Ukraine, and not everybody, but most people are starting to talk about the nuclear potential of the Kursk power plant. So they're talking about it being a nuclear disaster, about Putin having a nuclear disaster and unprecedented emergencies. Guys, let's be under no illusion, okay? This nuclear power plant in Russia that the Ukrainians are, I think they're 3 miles away from it, and it's 80 miles away from the front line. This will be a strategic target for the Ukrainians. Let's just look quickly at what's been happening. So there you've got the article there, guys. I will share these articles with you, but I've got quite a few to go through this morning, so I'm just going to talk about them. I'll put them up on the share screen as I'm talking. I won't go read through the articles, but then I'll put them in the description below so you can read them at your leisure. So The article now, you know, when was this out? This was updated last night at 11:39. So they're talking now about, you know, the proximity of the Ukrainian troops to this nuclear power plant. I said all along, I said, you know, guys, look, the Ukrainians are having their power plants destroyed by the Russians. The Russians are attacking the Ukrainian energy system. Do we really think that the Ukrainians are not going to attack the Russian power plants? You know, do we really think that? Of course not. It's absurd to think that. I've said like months ago that this would be a strategic target if the Ukrainians look like they're on the back foot in that region. And right now it looks like they're on the back foot in that region. Not least because it's looking like the Russians have already got in place these new battalions of North Koreans. Now it's looking like, remember when, I think it was maybe last week or something, I said I just spoke to my friend and he said these guys are looking like they're going to be doing, you know, the Russians are looking like they're going to be doing another push forwards. It looks like they're going to be doing, you know, a mass multi-pronged attack in various locations in Ukraine. And if I'm being honest, you know, I don't see how the Ukrainians can hold them back. They're struggling at the moment. They're losing ground in the Kursk region. So it'd be difficult to understand how the Ukrainians can hold these guys back, unless, of course, you know, they start striking, striking targets within Russia itself with these long-range weapons that have been promised, and it's going to happen at some point. So if you understand this, this divergence that I've been talking about, where the United Kingdom is going to lead NATO in Eastern Europe, and the United States is going to be concentrating on the Middle East and the Eastern threat. As soon as Trump gets elected, if he does get elected, obviously, because we don't know, but if Trump gets elected, all he can do with this situation in Ukraine is pull funding. That is all he can do. Zelensky's plan to peace, or whatever he's called, or plan to victory, whatever he's calling it, that involves NATO membership. And NATO membership's been really clear that you can't join NATO if you're in an active war. It's kind of like phoning your insurance company up and asking, like you're skidding to your doom off the edge of a cliff or into the back of a multi-car pileup, and saying, "Hey guys, listen, you know, can I get some insurance?" And them saying, "Oh, are you on the way to an accident?" Yeah, I'm literally skidding in the back of an HGV now. It just doesn't work like that. So, and I don't want to. Unfortunately for Zelensky, I don't think his victory plan is worth the paper it's written on. NATO are going to reject it because they have to reject it. It's absurd that it's absurd that it's even been contemplated. I think if Zelensky is happy to give a load of his country up and say, right, okay, Russians, you can have this much of the country in response to NATO membership, maybe that's another question that these guys can have. But I don't think that's a question that the global community has the stomach to answer. I don't think that's going to be, acceptable either in the global community, whereby we have a huge country who just decides to take a load of somebody else's country, and then they have to give it them, and because of reasons. I just don't see that flying with the international community. Maybe it will. I don't think so. I don't see how that can happen. So there you have it, guys. Just a quick update on what's happening in Ukraine. It's all at the moment. It's all about this nuclear power plant in Kursk. I said this months ago. Literally, and you get these. Let me see if I can find it. There's an article where somebody asks. I can't find it. I'll try and put it in the description. But there was basically an article on and somebody had asked one of the Ukrainian military spokesperson if they're going to strike the nuclear power plant in Kursk. And the response was, we're not going to strike it. It would be a pointless attack. This just shows you the level of ineptness that comes from these people who call themselves reporters, and how they just don't understand the landscape. They don't understand the dynamics. They don't understand what's happening. So my next question would be, if somebody said, if that was me and I said, are you going to strike the nuclear power plant in Kursk? And he said, no, it would be pointless. I would say, okay, when wouldn't it be pointless? Because, guys, you know, it is 100% a military target. The Russians have been destroying the Ukrainians' power grid. So why wouldn't the Ukrainians now, while they have the chance, while they're in the Kursk region, why wouldn't they strike that, you know, why wouldn't they attack that nuclear facility while they have the opportunity, while they have the option, while they can? Then there's going to be no international condemnation for Ukraine if they take out Russia's nuclear, one of Russia's nuclear power plants. Remember, you don't have to take out any of the nuclear material. You don't have to bomb the reactor. You know, you can take out these, you know, the ancillary assets in and around that area. So the additional power generation, that's probably diesel. You know, you can take out the power lines that transport that power to point A to point B. You can take out the you know, the substations, the buildings in and around that area. You know, you can do a lot of damage, and you can take that offline without touching the reactor. Right now, they have that opportunity. If the Russians push them out of the Kursk region, that opportunity, that window of opportunity, is going to get smaller. So the risk of that attack right now is getting larger. All the time, you've got this, you know, you've got more and more media outlets coming out now saying that the Russians are planning on a big push using North Korean troops. Remember, North Korean troops is synonymous for Chinese. North Korea are not allowed to do anything without the thumbs up from the Chinese. So I would speculate heavily that embedded or in a command control situation scenario, or in a, what's the word I'm looking for, or in a consultancy administration role, step back behind this front line, behind these North Korean troops, I would say you have a number of Chinese special forces who are out there as advisors, as eyes and boots on the ground, to get a battle analysis for the Chinese. Of course, they're going to do this. You know, the British, Americans, French, Germans, they're all operating in Ukraine. This has come out in mainstream media. So why wouldn't our enemies, allies, be doing the same for our enemies? You know, it's just warfare, guys. You know, and people, you know, and we're getting a lot of people like who don't know what they're talking about peace talks and peace negotiations. We're having no peace talks, or we may have peace talks, but all that's going to happen is people are going to get drunk and eat salmon sandwiches and those little prawn vol au vent things, and, you know, and stand by there, you know, and have a nice dinner, have a nice party. Some people are going to hook up. It's going to be wild, and then they're going to go home and they're going to say, yeah, we didn't achieve anything. It's absolutely absurd, guys. Anyway, guys, I'm going to max a grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.